Hello, I'm Scott Stornetta, and this is another edition of Our American Dreams, where we interview people that we consider to be among the most honest and wise in the country that we know personally, and invite them to share their own version of the American dream. Tonight, I'm honored to have Ms. Jamie Pooler, and I'm not going to tell you anything about her background. I'm not going to tell you how many Nobel Peace Prizes she's won or anything like that, because I just want you to meet another person that we consider quintessentially honest and wise as an American. Nice to have you on, Jamie. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and it's my honor actually to have been asked to participate. I'm excited, and I can't wait to go over the questions or that you have for me. And the word delighted comes to mind. It's not a word I use often, but I really am delighted that you've
Terrific.
asked me to do this.
Terrific. All right. Well, let's begin. So the first question, and I read these questions almost word for word because I want them to be the same across each of the interviews. Okay. Is there someone whom you've known personally, perhaps an ancestor or a relative of a previous generation, that you admire as one who epitomized realizing their American dream?
Yes, I'm going to narrow it down to two people. I'm going to speak of my grandfather. Now, the caveat is I did not meet, it's my maternal grandfather. Um, I didn't meet him personally, but I knew a lot about him, like as soon as I could understand or string together a sentence. My grandfather has quite an interesting story. He's from the South, which is not uncommon for a lot of African American families. Um, he lived in North Carolina, excuse me, South Carolina, and I guess in the region where they called, or he was raised initially there, um, near the region which they called the Geechee Island, where sort of a lot of the rice paddies and such were. He was one of 22 children.
Mm.
As a result, I know, but that was two marriages. It was two marriages. They had farmland, so they, I imagine, had this large family, and all of the kids worked the land. So he was a hardworking man. At some point, my grandfather, as an adult, now there's a gap I don't know about, but as an adult, my grandfather used to work for a family. He was quite gifted. I mean, he did a lot of things. He made things. He slaughtered hogs, and he raised animals, and a lot of the meat that our family ate. This is before I was born, but a lot of the meat our family ate came from the animals that he raised. So chickens, hogs. I don't know that he had goats, but he had large stock, right? So he was gifted with agriculture, all of those things. He worked for a family, and he gave his boss's wife a ride across county lines at some point as an adult, which was
Mm.
against the law at that time. So I'm talking like, so if my mother, she was 86, she came in 35, so it might have been in the early 1900s, so the very beginning stages of the 20th century.
Okay.
He was jailed for that. He got pulled over. He was on a chain gang, which is something I don't know that we have them anymore. I think there may be a few, maybe somewhere deep in the South. I don't know. But he
I've
was on a
certainly
chain
seen
gang.
them, but it's a childhood memory.
Right. So he was on a chain gang, and just for that, I mean, he didn't commit a crime like as we would describe it today, but that was the crime at the time because Jim Crow laws were in effect. He broke free and he went to Canada, and he was smart enough to get an attorney. I don't know what he did to work to get the money but he was always a hardworking man, from my understanding. Got an attorney, changed his name a little bit. God, should I be putting this in here? I'm not sure, but he's not here anymore, so I think it's okay. He came back to America, lived with his sister in Chicago for a period of time until he could establish himself. At some point or another, he became a contractor. He learned to build homes. He left Chicago and then he went to New York. He had family in Long Island. My aunt also was gifted as well. She was my great aunt. She was a seamstress, and she earned her living by sewing fine linens. I don't know if you're familiar with Phyllis Keckley, the woman that lived in the well, she lived in the White House with the Lincolns, and
Okay.
she used to make all of the gowns for the generals' wives and such. Well, my aunt was gifted like that, so she made her living by by making baked goods, and she was a seamstress, and she also did fine embroidery. So she would do fine table linens, gowns, you name it. So anyway, I digress. My grandfather learned to build homes. He was there. What is this with my phone and the charger? Oh my God. Okay. He um he learned to build homes. I don't know how he made his way to New Jersey, but he made his way to New Jersey. And at some point, he met my grandmother. He built homes for many of my family members that lived in Boonton, which is right against the Boonton Township, which is right but against Mountain Lakes. So he
Sure.
built a whole neighborhood of homes for the people that he knew. So for me, I was just impressed by that because there were so many obstacles that he faced that I have never had to encounter. I pray to God I never do. And he just took what he had, he used what he had, and he did what he could. And what he did to me was quite phenomenal because the house I grew up in was built by my grandfather.
Mm.
And I don't know, I'm just super proud of that because I feel like if there was ever a dream for a person, an African American man, to do all of that traveling, moving around, and to finally establish a home and a business and several businesses and just bless so many people with his gifts and talents alone. So that to me says that speaks volumes. One person did so much and blessed so many people, and even blessed me, his granddaughter, who he never met. Which I hope when I get to heaven one day that I could just tell him how awesome I think he is. That I was a recipient of his blessings, how he blessed our family. It just I don't know. It just blows me away.
That is a wonderful story. And, the whole notion that he was able to, in a sense, reinvent himself
Hmm.
and then accomplish so much good. I love that.
Hmm.
All right, well, let's go on to the second question. What about you? In what sense has your own life, with all of its challenges as well as successes, been a realization of your American dream? And can you describe the process?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Wow. They're really making things oh gosh, come to the surface. Well, I was a lifelong resident of Morristown, New Jersey. We moved away. I actually lived in North Carolina for, I would say, the first 5.5, 6 years of my life. But other than that, the rest of my family, we moved to North Carolina, then we moved back to New Morristown, New Jersey. From that point forward, I lived in New Jersey in the house that my grandfather had built. Um, but I remember I was an excellent student. I mean, I would even say teacher's pet in many of my classes up until middle school, maybe eighth grade. We had some rough times, I would say, in the years of my developmental years in high school, and things were rough, and my grades just kind of tanked. I would be honest, if I were honest, I would say I barely graduated high school, but it was all because I was distracted, I think, by the things going on at home. I can't believe how vulnerable I am right now, but here we go. Um, but I still was determined because my parents were both formally educated. So they went to HBCUs, and education was very important to my mom, especially. I didn't know quite as much about my dad's collegiate experience. I know now he did some awesome things as well, but because he didn't talk about it as much as my mom. But um, so I felt like I disappointed my parents. I had children very young. I was married. I've been married now I've been with my husband since I was 17, to give you an idea. So I really didn't create a life for myself outside of, or the one that I dreamed I would, one I thought I would have outside of marriage. So my time and my most of my adult life has been devoted to raising my children, making sure they were educated and, had a good start, had a good foundation. Even in that, I feel like, I was able to do some pretty phenomenal things. My son went to one of the top high schools. This is not a brag sheet, but I would never have thought that a young mother like myself would have had the opportunity for him to go to a school that he went to. It's one of the top schools in the Princeton, and it's in the Princeton area. And he's done well. My daughter's doing well. My youngest, he's kind of a freelance guy, but he's still doing well. They're all on their own. They're all healthy and mentally, physically, spiritual, all that. But I still had a dream to go to school. I mean, I wanted to do it before, and I had gone, a few classes here, a few classes there, and I just never pieced it all together. So when I went to County College of Mars for a period of time. When I went to get my last couple of credits so I could move to a 4-year school, and this is after my kids have graduated from high school and all of that, and they were well on their way through college. I got to the dean's office to discuss how I could create a pathway working full time and going to school. Because look, this is like you said, it's America. Why can't we have the American dream? It's not over till it's over, right? So I get in the dean's office, and it was an industrial design degree that I was pursuing. And he tells me, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Pooler, but you know, we can't move you forward with this, the curriculum that you have, already that you've studied. You got to start over." Well, because of it was industrial design, there's a lot of technology that had changed.
Um,
So without even thinking, Scott, I like tears. I promise you, I don't even recall even the emotion coming before the tears. The tears almost came before the emotion because here I was thinking I had done all I needed to do to help my children be great, and now it's my turn. And what? I have to start over. So that's a couple $1,000s that I've squandered, but it wasn't anyone's fault except that technology just moves so quickly
mhm.
that what I had learned was obsolete. So I had to start over. I was like, oh God, what am I going to do now? Well, needless to say, a friend of mine called me, and this is something I'll talk to you off camera about because there's a story attached to this as well, but it's more like a testimony. But I did end up enrolling in Grand Canyon University's one of their programs, and I
Sure.
graduated just last year. So again, I just feel like, if there was ever a dream, an American dream, I have had so many obstacles and working full time. Oh, listen, working full time. My mom died, my sister died, my brother died. We had to sell our family home, the one I grew up in. My husband got relocated. All of these things happened within 6 years, a 6-year period. And within that 6-year period, I was still going to school. Those 4 years were, encapsulated in those 6 years. So it was just so much going on, but somehow, doors just kept opening for me.
That
And
is,
here I am. I'm a graduate. I kept the promise to my mother.
yeah,
I'm a graduate. I hope to continue. And I still see it as a possibility that I can continue. I feel like I could do whatever I want to do as long as I have strength in my body and my mind is good. I don't see any limits, on what I can do.
surely that's a story that's all the more satisfying because of the struggle. But it's really hard to picture that moment where you thought you had success and then they told you, I'm sorry. It's like a Monopoly game,
Oh, yeah.
where you have to go back 7 spaces or
Oh,
something.
yeah. Shoots and ladders.
There you go. Great story.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we turn to this third thing, which is, can you imagine one thing in American life that, were it to change, would allow more people to realize their own American dream?
Hmm. Um, I think I described it differently, but I think I have a word that might fit. I think empathy, and I think also just keeping a childlike mindset,
Okay.
not being
Say more about what
immature.
you mean by that.
Well, not being immature, but you know, uh, like my son wanted to be many different things when he was little.
Okay.
He wanted a clown, which is every parent wants that, right? You want your kid to he wanted to be a clown. He wanted to be I hate to say it, a drug dealer because of television and movies. He wanted to be the pastor in our church. And well, needless to say, he did become a minister. He achieved that. He finished college, with all of the things, and now he's got two careers. But So that one of those things had come to fruition. But for me, I also like I thought when I was a child because I did not mind watching like we watched a lot of PBS and a lot of public television when I was a kid. And I used to want to be a doctor because I really was intrigued. Biology was interesting to me. I don't know, it just kind of blew my mind how everything in the body worked together. And I thought at some point I would be a surgeon. That didn't happen, but I just feel like I don't know. There are many things. So if I'm lost, I got lost in my train of thought. Please
Well,
remind me
but
of
you
what
were
I'm
talking
answering
about
next.
this childlike
Oh
belief.
yeah. Oh yeah. So having that childlike belief, I feel like if we could maintain a piece of that and not be thwarted by, let's just say, if finance, if money was not an issue, right? If money weren't an issue, and I never let that hinder me,
Mhm.
or if health issues, if I didn't consider them a hindrance, or just anything that comes up as an obstacle, if we could just overcome our obstacles and keep a childlike perspective
Mhm.
about what we want to do, where we want to go, and how we want to live. If there was something we could just kind of like a pill or a or a veil we could remove, or maybe some glasses we could put on to help people do that or maintain that childlike perspective, I feel like more people probably would take advantage of the possibilities.
That's a great sermon, really. A little mini sermon there.
Yeah.
It's telling people that part of the issue is to just put on a different pair of glasses or, just somehow take away the mask or the veil.
Hmm.
I like that a lot. All right.
Hmm.
Well, let's keep going. We're on a roll. Now, this is the question that most people spend the most time thinking about in preparation for this interview. Who is the
Hmm.
most honest and wise living individual that you know personally? And can you tell us how you reached that conclusion?
Yeah, it took me a second. That one kind of stumped me. I mean, partially because, being this age, you know a lot of people, you encounter a lot of people. But I would say I have a friend at church, and I don't mind using her name because I just love her so much, and I don't think she'll mind. Her name is Carol Poe, and she's got like such a strong faith, and she's so smart. I mean, she spent most of her life, or most of the lifetime that I've known her within the past, hold as my son, I'd say the past 36 years, really supporting her husband, being a dutiful wife. But like really, when I say running her household, people used to say like, in jest, I'm a house manager. I would say back in the 80s, it was very, you know, I felt like women had to justify not being a working woman.
Right.
But when I tell you she ran her household, now her household is not like my little four-bedroom house. I'm talking like she had like six-car garage. So they really did need a house manager, and she did it, and she did it well. She's so hospitable. Um, but when it comes to wisdom, like I feel like she's just so wise because what she'll do is, I think it's partially because she's Christian, that she's able to really discern, okay, let me remove myself and my emotions from this. And let's look at the facts, right? But she does it with compassion.
Hmm.
So she's able to somehow marry that compassion and the truth of the matter, and throw in a dash of hope. Does that make
Is she willing to serve as president if she's elected? Because we could really use someone
I think
like
she's
that.
beyond those years now, but I mean, she would have made an amazing president because she's just, like I said, she's just so able. She just can compartmentalize things, but not necessarily with a closed door. Like none of those doors are closed to the other. It's almost like when you have a hotel room and you have the adjacent room, and you can unlock those doors if you need to, but you don't have to always. She's just so when I've called her just for instance with difficult friendship circumstances. I don't know if you've ever broken up, had a friendship breaking up. I think that's sometimes more hurtful than like a boyfriend, girlfriend,
Hmm.
romantic relationship. Friendships are hard when you have breakups. So she gave me some of the most sound, I'm gonna even say advice, but she just gave me things to think about. She helped me see that how it was a part of life. She helped me to even come up with ways to articulate um, how I felt about, or how I felt about the relationship and share it with that person. And what I might not want, with things that I could leave out. Like you don't have to say everything, right? So she was just she's very clear. And again, honest. And if she doesn't agree with you, she'll tell you. She says, "Listen, what I'm saying is not fact, but I just don't agree with you." And that, like, when someone can do that for me and be truthful, I don't know. I respect that. That just, the combination is just a perfect combination.
Sure. It sounds like a great person.
She really
Ah.
is.
Well, let's go to the last and final question, which is really just an open-ended platform for you to speak to the American people. Any final thought or advice you'd like to share with or offer the American people?
Okay, so I'm sure by now you probably get the gist that my worldview is Christian. Even for non-believers, I think that the Bible is such a great platform on how to be humane. I feel like we're losing our humanity in the world. And in order to honor what took place to make this land, or for us to have what we have, like the democracy and all of that in America, and that I can live in my house and have the internet, and I can go to the supermarket anywhere and wherever I feel like it, and buy whatever I want. That I still have career choices at my age. Um, I feel like we have got to um, find the humanity that I feel like we once knew. Now, I will tell you, as an African American woman, that there are some discouraging things about having been connected to the American story, because there's some untruths, and I feel like I like to use the illustration of a like mold. Have you ever like had laundry mold? And if you leave it in the dark, or you put it in a corner somewhere and you cover it up, you may not see that particular item, but the mold will grow. And after a while, if you leave it there, that mold will attach itself to everything around it. Even if you cover it up, it'll begin to grow. So for me, I feel like just um, if we could just look at our young country, because we have a baby country. First of all, not work to be perfect all the time, but accept the fact that we've made some mistakes.
Hmm.
Acknowledge that. Acknowledge our mistakes, because even in your own personal life, when I find that I do not acknowledge my mistakes and I try to move past them, there's certain things that you have to do developmentally to move forward and to grow. And when we don't acknowledge those things, right? We can pretend, but it seems like the truth just always bubbles up. It's always like seeping out somewhere. And there's always some residue. I would like us to see, I'd like to see us grow in that way where, and not even always punitive, but to really stand on the principles that I think they were discussing in that room when they were writing the Declaration of Independence, but include Black people. We're a part of the story. We are a very big part of the story. I'm not going to say so much more than everyone else. We do, but we do have a very important part of the story. And it's something that I think if people would not ignore it, it might help, or it might be the cure to some of our ills.
That sounds like great advice. Great advice for us as individuals and as a country. Because who wants moldy clothes?
Who wants mold? Mold is gross.
Right. All right. Well, I want to thank you again for being a part of this. And we'll sign off. I'm Scott Stornetta, and this has been another edition of Our American Dreams.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.